Alright, so my reels finally got monetized, and I have to get like 10 million views to get like a little bit of money. But regardless, I posted this long nose manual that I did. I got a lot of DMs about like, oh, how do you hold manuals so long? So I figure, okay, I'll just do a video on manuals. We're at the skate park once again. 10 out of 10 times that I've gone to a skate park, someone brings up a speaker and plays their music, which just drives me nuts. Like, it sucks that I have to like ask them to turn it down. And it's like, I get it, you're just trying to like listen to your music, but like, I'm definitely not trying to listen to your music. But anyways, we came over behind the skate park where this is an incredible manual pad. It's kind of long, and I'm just gonna give you the breakdown on every little secret, every little hack that I know about holding manuals, both, you know, long ones, short ones, flip in, flip out. We're gonna go across the entire spectrum because there's a lot of secrets, a lot of things that people don't think about when it comes to manuals, and it makes it so much harder for them. First things first, Sean's gonna hold the phone. So basically, how I personally got good at manuals is just stationary manuals, because if you can hold a manual stationary, you can hold a manual in any situation.
Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, because with momentum going forward, it's actually easier to hold a manual. So if you can hold it here, stationary, you're actually learning how to balance a regular manual and a switch manual at the same time. I know that sounds weird.
Wow.
But sometimes you kind of like will shuffle that way, and sometimes you'll shuffle this way, depending on how level the ground is. But another thing is, like, a lot of people, they think that their foot needs to be on the tip. I put my foot like right in that little pocket right there. And when you're in there, it gives you a little bit of play with your front foot to hold it down and lift it up. Whereas like if you're just on the tip, it's literally just this foot doing all the work. Whereas if I'm here, there's actually like, you could almost, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it just gives you a little bit more play to like go this way and then rock this way. You want to be able to use like as much as you can to balance. Another thing is, when people manual and they're on flat ground and they're learning how to like balance manuals, their arms just go crazy. And the secret to all manuals is to move as little as possible.
Really?
So at first you might like look kind of ridiculous trying to be like that's not what I mean. What I mean is, like, when you feel yourself wobble that way, you don't need to shuffle all your weight that way to hold it. What you need to do is find that little slight movement. Sometimes it's just bending your knee in, and it'll help you like level out the manual. So really minimizing how much you move with your manual isn't like a flex. Like, it isn't like someone does like a really long manual,
hands down,
like just chilling. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not them being well, if you're like this, it's a flex. But when someone's like this, like for me, when I nose manual, usually this arm just stays down, and then my front hand goes out like a teacup.
Okay.
And this is like an easier counterweight for me than if I involve this arm. When I involve this arm, it's almost like I have to fight one more body part to like stay balanced.
You want your weight to be
as little fluctuation as possible. Another thing that people don't think about when they manual is when they're first learning. I see this a lot, like they'll be like manually like this, like stiff legs. You want to like unlock your knees.
You can't be straight legged.
No.
That's like a beginner thing, like you think you have to straight leg it.
Well, it's because when you straight leg it, it's more responsive, right? Like if I'm locked in, I could like really, move it all quick. But when you're like loose and you're just kind of like balancing with it, it's 1,000 times easier to like bring it back. So I definitely recommend finding some smooth ground and practicing stationary manuals, both nose manuals and regular manuals. And this is going to be a common theme throughout this entire video. Having a goal for your manual is 100% what you need to like really progress. Not only does it help you measure it, but it helps you hold out a little bit longer. And I'll explain that a little bit later, maybe, if I remember. But basically, you should go by second stationary. Like, I'm gonna get to 1 second, I'm gonna get to 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and then push it out further and further each time. Though you just don't want to go up like second by second. Like when you get to 5 seconds, you should go to 10 seconds next. And once you get to like, I don't know, 30 seconds, that really means you can just hold it as long as you want. You understand the balance points, and then it's just a matter of breaking the habit of setting it down. So basically what I mean is this: if I'm holding a manual and I'm gonna hold it for 5 seconds, a lot of times there's this like panic button that happens when you get to the end of a manual. Like, it is much more common for someone to like fall on a manual at like the last second than usually like halfway through when someone's doing like a technical flip trick. Because like, you're like, there's the end of the pad, there's the end of the pad, but like, this is about to be 10 seconds, this is about to be 10 seconds. And your body reacts to what your mind is thinking, which is like, we're here, oh God. It's almost like when you gotta go to the bathroom, it always gets, it gets way worse when you finally
Yeah, shaking and shit.
But the second you get in the building where the bathroom is, you're like, oh, I gotta get it. Like, it's the same thing. Like, there's this weird panic. And you can train your mind as, like, you know, Mr. Magoo as that sounds. Not Mr. Magoo, what is it? As hippy-dippy as that sounds, you can control your mind to, like, not panic when you get there. You want to be as calm in your body as you are in your mind when you're doing manuals. And it's like, it sounds so stupid, but I swear to God, I'm someone who I think is particularly good at, like, holding long manuals. I can hold manuals and nose manuals usually until my legs get too sore that I have to set them down.
Wow.
And I mean, I know a ton of skaters who got to that level, and I don't think any of them got there by just, you know, repetition. Like, I think there's like a realization when you're manualing where it's like, I am making this so much harder than it needs to be on myself.
Yeah.
You'll be balancing, you're like, wait a second, it's not that much. It really is a little bit more subtle. So simplifying your body movements and the way that you think about manuals is such like a good tip to like really hold them. And then the second thing is, after you practice the stationary ones, definitely parking spaces, man.
Oh yeah.
Everyone has the parking
the
spaces
lines.
somewhere.
Yep.
You can get that distance and you just like add a parking space to how far you're gonna go. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I always had these like days. Like, I remember I spent an entire day learning how to skate switch. I spent an entire day learning how to do regular manuals and holding them as long as I could. I literally went to a parking lot, and it was probably like 5 hours of just me doing manuals. And it was fun because, like, you can actually progress at holding manuals really good. You just gotta, like, keep in mind, okay, don't panic when I get that balance. And another thing that I see a lot is for beginners, it's much more comfortable, especially like with both of them, to set your manual down instead of scraping, especially with nose manuals, because the fear is, oh, if I'm nose manualing and I'm scraping. Yeah,
that's the biggest fear.
Yeah, you're like, that's where a fall is. But like, it's not. Like, it really isn't like that big of a deal. When you scrape on your nose manual, 99% of the time you just step out of it, and it's like, it's kind of uncomfortable, I guess, but it's not that bad. Worst case scenario, you tuck and roll.
Yeah, you lose your footing.
I've been doing nose manuals for 20 years, and I have never once, and it's still a fear of mine, I've never once done this. I've never scraped my nose and rolled my ankle. It's never happened to me. It's always been a fear.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, when I do my nose manuals, I'm not here, so there's no foot to catch.
Yeah, you're up there.
Here. So if I scrape here, I'm just stepping off.
Yeah.
And for manuals, it's the same thing. I'll see people like manual for like super long, they get near the pad, and then they do this like teeter thing where their body's in front like this, and then they set it down.
Oh, I get
And it's just like, dude, when you're here, you can just move your body weight back. But you're not thinking that. You're thinking about where you are in the second, not how to get out of where you are. That's a big one. Always lean towards the scraping instead of the set down, because fear is dictating you towards setting it down.
Yeah. And
you don't want fear to end your manual first. You want your lack of balance to end your manual.
Right.
And I see that a lot. Like, kids will just be like manualing, and they're like, oh God, like I don't want to scrape, so they set it down. If you set it down with authority, that means more than anything you gave up.
You stepped out.
Manuals should be like
scrape.
Your body being awful. Well, sometimes you can fall forward.
Yeah.
But like, you don't fall forward. Like, I'm not gonna bounce a manual and fall like this. If I fall forward with a manual, it's gonna be like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And you see that less and less. So that's another thing, is like, when you're doing distance, really try to like, don't let your setting your wheels down or your tail scrape be one that you favor. Like, just let whatever one happens and hold on to the very, very last second.
I think I always end up scraping.
Do you? That's good.
I bet on a nose manual, for some reason, I can't get my weight right. I'll be in the nose manual for like a millisecond, and then I'll set it down.
Yeah.
I can't do them. Like, I have to ollie onto something high to be able to get the leverage.
Interesting.
Because I'm scared of throwing my weight forward.
Right there, you're scared of throwing your weight forward, and you can't let fear pick which side you go to.
Yeah.
Another thing, then, you know, the next step is like doing tricks into manuals, going up a curb to manual.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to practice that is just, and what's cool about manuals is, the slower you can do them, the more control you have.
Yeah.
And it's also the less scary.
It is, because it's like, oh, I'm only going this slow, so I can, it's like, you know.
100%. But if you go really fast and you manual, you're going to be able to manual a lot further than you can. Not just further, a lot longer, I should say, for like a time period than if you're going slower. It's just harder. So for learning how to do tricks into manuals, especially like up curbs, if you're beginning, I say do this. Like, do like little baby ollies to manuals, little ollies out, play with that. Same rules apply, add seconds to it. I know this is going to feel very much like a chore, because it is. Manuals isn't like, no one's skating flat ground manuals, and the whole time they're like, whee! Yeah. It is like a little bit, maintenance to get better at skating, which it sucks, but I swear to God, you do this like 7 different days in like, I don't know, 6-month span or 7-month span, you will 100% be 7 times better at manuals. You just get to put in a little bit of clocked in work, which is kind of corny, but if you clicked on this video to get better at manuals, I don't know what to tell you. It's not the most fun thing in the entire world, but once you have them though, I cannot tell you how much more fun it makes skating when I can like do a grind and then last second just decide
he just wants to manual out of things.
Yeah, and then you're in a manual and then you can just add some more dumb shit to it. And does it make the trick better? No, but it's really fun. Look at that, no amplified music. That sign should be in the goddamn skateboard. Yeah. I almost didn't mention it because it's just like you're gonna figure it out as you go. But I don't want people to overthink it. But when you manual, you are leaning a little bit more over your front foot. And when you're nose manualing, you're leaning a bit more over your back foot. Like, see, I'm kind of like back here.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times in photos, when you see a manual, their body's kind of like this. And that's because when you're centered, kind of in between your feet, kind of, but like definitely not over the nose. It's just, it gives your body weight more leverage to play with which way you teeter. So definitely like, don't be afraid to like tweak your knees in a little bit. And it looks cooler. And same thing with manuals. You just want to lean a little bit more forward, you know, like.
Yeah.
Like so, yeah, I'd say here. And you know what? With manuals and nose manuals, I think both of them, I use my front arm to counterweight, and my back arm I try to use as little as possible. That's just me.
My arms go everywhere. Remember that day at La Puente? I looked like an inflatable car. You know, the things out the front of the car things? Yeah, it's like, oh, I can't control my arms.
You can.
Can I?
You can. Just spend a day doing it. I do want to get into a little bit more advanced stuff when it comes to manuals, and that's like flip outs and stuff like that. If you want to learn manual flip outs and those manuals, I assume that you can already do this. I assume you can already move manual and wiggle your foot where you want it.
All right.
But if you can't do that, practice that first, because you really need to get your feet where you want them, exactly where you want them, because there's been so many manual tricks that I've like tried flip in, flip out, and I get into the flip in so perfect. My feet are exactly where I want them.
Wow.
And I wiggle my feet, and like I want to do a flip trick out, and like let's say I'm doing a nose man or nollie flip. Where I want a nose man or nollie flip is not where I nose man, or not where I nollie flip on flat. My nollie flips are here.
Yeah.
My nose man or nollie flip, it's like here.
Oh,
and it's just like if your body weight's not right there, you got to really get consistent at getting them feet into the right spot. But
yeah.
Here's a little secret when it comes to manuals. When you do a flip trick out of a manual, you're coming from here, so you don't have as much time to snap. That means there's not as much force. Also, a lot of times you're coming off of the leaning forward teeter. There's like a 50% chance that you're either, you know, on the up or the down, you know what I mean? But if you're on the down, it's really hard to get out of this and get a good snap if your body weight's falling forward. So I try to plan that I'm gonna be on the up, and then from the up, I do a little dip and try not to let my wheel smack. So in other words, you wanna be like, kind of like here.
And then drop it a tiny bit, and then pull it back.
So it's not like you're manualing and you down and up. You want to manual, slightly start to bring it up to get control, then drop it, and then bring it back up. And that helped me so much with nose man on nollie flips and nollie trays. Like,
wow.
Like timing like that, go up, down, up. It's like up, down, up, right, left, right, A, B, A, B, A, B, B, the blood sheet. And I know I butchered it, but it was close enough. It's something password. I might even set up with the Sonic password to get all the worlds. But yeah, so that's something to think about. And also, you need a sharper flick. You need to make your board flip faster. And that doesn't mean you kick harder. Kicking harder is not the answer. That's how you make the board dive at the nose and you sack your board or some dumb crap. Make your board flip faster, and you're in a manual trick, and you have it hanging off more, you flick sharper. So if I'm flicking up here, it's gonna flip slower. If I'm flicking here through the board, kind of like in this zone right here, instead of up here, this is where your poppy tweaky kick flips are.
Yeah.
Here's where your flips are.
Semi-auto.
Yeah, you want to be like, so like a lot of times I'll just think, get it to stick to my front foot and flick sharp.
Right.
Like, not up to do a tweaky kick flip, but sharp. Same thing with nollie flips. You see a lot of people, like Seva, sometimes when he does this like nollie flips out of his nose manual, I swear to God, his foot's already in the
it's like ready
spot.
to go.
Like he's here.
Yeah.
And he just immediately like, and I want that, but I don't really like the way it looks, so I stay over here. But I want the consistency.
Yeah.
But I don't like the way it looks. And a lot of times, you know, as much as I talk shit on aesthetic, when it comes to skating, there's a lot of tricks that I don't do a certain way because I don't like the way they look. Like inward heels here's a really random tangent. Inward heels is a good example where I refused to learn the trick because I never wanted to do this.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people do that. And the second that someone was just like, just put your foot like that, I learned it in like 3 tries. Like this is the inward heel spot.
Yeah.
I just feel like Bambi in the beginning of the movie where he's learning how to walk. I'm like, you know what I mean? It just looks stupid. But we are at this manual pad right here. So I'm gonna do a couple manuals, kind of talk my way through it because there's some other stuff that I need to talk about, especially 180s in and out. For if you're just learning manuals, you're gonna want to know this later. All right, so I'm gonna manual and I'm gonna 180 out. Note what my upper body does at the end of the manual. I don't start here switching my shoulders. I wait till the last couple feet, then open up, and then 180. It's the same thing with back 180. You don't set up for the trick out at the beginning or the halfway point. You set up at the end.
At the end.
It is so hard to do like a trick out when you're like open like this. Like,
yeah.
You can't, that's hard to hold.
It looks awkward too.
Oh, it's super awkward. So when you're doing the 180 outs, think of that. I'll do a 180 in trick, let's say. I'll just do half cab nose manual. Basically with half cab nose manual or any 180 manual trick, here's a cool little secret. You're not half cabbing and then landing in your perfect straight nose manual. You're not in a normal nose manual. You're actually planning to half cab and then you almost lock into a nose manual like you're gonna half cab back out. Like you start here because getting all that momentum of your upper body to the full like regular nose manual position in one swoop is gonna make you wanna do this not like 180 out.
All the way around.
And I see a lot of people, they'll do half cab nose manuals, or here's a real common one, like 180 switch nose manual. The 180 switch nose manual, they'll do the full 180, and the next thing you know, they're just like, oh, they gotta turn out, they can't balance it. So for that one, like when I 180 switch nose manual, if you watch footage, I'll like 180 and my shoulders stay here, and I fight my upper body, and then I'll readjust my upper body to fix whichever way
So you're readjusting as soon as you get in, basically.
Exactly. Your upper body will be able to fix whatever way your momentum's going. It's stayed straight.
Yeah.
So like, if I'm actually accidentally coming to half cab back, then I can set my shoulders right, or what's more common, I'm gonna accidentally figgy frontside 180 out, and I'll be able to stop it for a second and then go. So I'll do a half cab nose manual. Hopefully I'll do it first try, because I don't want to take too long. So upper body gets ahead, it's squared off, then I can fix it. Then if I want to do something else, I can unsquare it, half cab out. Like your shoulders are such a great like.
They dictate what your body's going to do.
And I think a lot of people, they get into the manual and they're not separating their upper body from their lower body for tricks.
I've never thought about that.
And it is such a key to like so many things out. I mean, I remember, it's kind of a random one, and I definitely wouldn't be able to do it again right now. But I learned manual frontside flip out. Now, if you fake frontside 180 into it, it's a lot easier. And at this point in time, I had the frontside flips without pivoting. But I remember I kept trying to manual and just frontside flip out of a manual. But my issue was I was here. But when I opened my shoulder up like this and thought, oh, I'm just gonna diagonally kick from here, and I did a little teeter, it was so much easier to consistently get like the full 180 out. So yeah, opening your shoulder up last second, super key. Another weird one though is so when you do back 180 switch manuals, so if you're trying to go to this one, it is backwards. You keep your shoulders straight, which sounds really hard because it's very blind.
Yeah.
And it's a tough one to practice because even though you have to use the same concept as I've described before, you will stop your shoulders at the 90 and let your feet go ahead. It is like really counterintuitive to pretty much go like this. And
yeah.
That one's one of the more hard manuals to do. Like the back 180 fakie manny, I definitely recommend like, and I do this with the front one too for a lot of times. Like you don't finish the full rotation, so you'll like...
You kind of skirt a little bit.
Yeah, you'll back 180, and then you'll use like this little bit of power slide to get the speed where you want, get your shoulders where you want. Yeah. And then balance. With the back 180 switch manual, like if you ever see footage of someone doing a back 180 switch manual, and they do anything backside, back out, that means that they're just better than everyone at skating. Because this, you can pivot it a little bit, but it really makes you want to keep going. Yeah. Spencer Simeon's really good at this one, and I noticed he does kind of a alley-oop-ish way, where he'll kind of come like, if this is the manual pad, we're straight here, we'll kind kind of come from here. So he'll
turn into it like that.
Yeah, he'll use the pivot a little bit, but he already knows that it's going to make him want to over-rotate, so he comes from an under-rotated position. So when he over-rotates, it keeps him straight.
Yeah.
So in other words, like, if he's going to do back 180 nose manual, he'll come from, like, here.
Oh,
That way he knows he's going to go 190.
And it's going to go a bit
and then
further.
It's gonna end him up straight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, playing with things like that is, like, definitely crucial. The other thing that you can, think about is, like, dropping into nose manual. I think that is a good one.
What do you mean?
Manuals. Like going off something like a curb, like practicing just like.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
And then doing stalls and shove-its for no reason because you're an idiot. Another thing, not to like let get in your head. Like, for example, scraping on nose manuals and manuals in that initial millisecond when your feet aren't on the board yet. Like sometimes someone will do a kickflip manual and they'll be like, it fucking happens. like wrecking ball, ain't even gonna call that one out because you're not even on the fucking board yet.
Yeah, the board's a separate entity.
Yeah, and it's super random one. If you're doing a manual, or a wall ride to nose manual or manual, you have to scrape. Like, if I do a wall, because I do that trick a good bit. If I do a wall ride and I go to nose manual, that has to happen before I get to here.
Yeah.
You're not. No one's going.
Nah.
Physics don't work the way, or I'll do like the 180 switch nose manual a lot. Like that one definitely is like a
scrapey.
And like, those are okay. I hope they're okay because I fucking do them. Sean's gonna try to nose manual this, and he wants me to tell him what he does wrong. Here's something to think about. Another thing that I talk about throughout any of my instructional videos that I've done on my channel or any other channels is pinching, right? Like there's crook pinches and Smith pinches and all this stuff. There's a manual pinch.
So you're telling me there's a manual pinch?
And not enough people talk about it. So if you pinch a manual too hard, you get wheel bite and you stop and you fall. That's not what we're talking about. What we are talking about is you need to pick a side of the truck that you are going to be leaning to, because if you're going like back and forth,
that's what I did just now, I think.
Yeah, that'll cause this. Like you'll be like,
yeah, that was just me earlier.
That's one more direction. That's one more dimension to throw you off. What I do, and I'll give you an example. I'm slightly toe side this whole time.
Really?
It's slight, but it's consistent. It stays to that side. And if I veer off the heel side, just the slightest bit, it's not a big deal because it's literally just like the smallest little teeter. A lot of people who let their body weight up here make their trucks wobble. I ride these trucks.
Yeah.
Pick a side. You have to.
So how do you pick heel or toe?
Aim for toe. Get in, and then you don't like think I'm toe the whole time, but you can think there's a line right here.
Mm-hmm.
You can just keep slightly on this side of the line with your front foot. Back foot's irrelevant. That was much better. Like you were like committed to that manual. Another thing that I think helps with holding manuals for distances and long times is overshooting where you're manualing to. So like let's say I do a kickflip nose manual and I want to get to the end of the pad. If I think about the end of the pad too much, I'm going to set it down in the last couple feet a lot of times because I do that panic thing. So sometimes I prepare for a manual way past the end of the pad. Like this manual pad in my head is 15 feet longer. That way it helps me stay a little bit more calm. That's like a little mental trick that I use. I don't know if it's going to help you, but it definitely helps me. See, you made it through that teeter. That I could tell you wanted to set it down after that first teeter, and then you held it up. It's so beautiful. Yes! See, you scraped and you could have held it.
I scraped, but it wasn't that bad. I had to remember bend the leg because otherwise, like I got in and I was like, keep my knees bent, and then it ultimately felt like I had more stability.
Yeah, 100%. It's like shocks.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and you look way more calm on that one too. Finding that zen with your body is definitely.
Because I get into this mode where I'm like, I gotta get the trick, and it's almost like my body just takes over and I gotta like.
Yeah, like calm down. Manual is manual labor for sure, 100%. Like if you do them more, you'll have them. So, like he never really does nose manuals at all. And look how much progress you made in literally 5 minutes. Like you could really get good at them in a short period of time, just depending on how much effort you put into it. Like anything, I think manual's one that's a bit of a daunting task because it's not the most exciting of all the tricks.